So, will this be Kevin Stefanski'S last dance? I think so. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or if you are new here, then please do me a favour and hit that subscribe button. So, we finally made it all the way to week 18. I don't really know how we've made it here, but we've made it. We have one more win than we did at this stage last year. 7 wins in 2 years. Probably going to remain 7 wins, let's be honest. It's been a brutal stretch. It's been a disappointing stretch for Browns fans. Don't get me wrong, I don't think any Browns fan had playoff aspirations this year. I mean, my best case scenario for this team was 6-7 wins. So it's not like we're that below expectation. But as I've said a few times this year, it's just felt really dirty getting here. It's felt like we've had to crawl through a pile of muck just to get thrown out at the other end as a 4 and what is probably going to be 13 football team the year after going 3-14. Unfortunately won't get the same reward that we got last year in terms of draft pick, but that's neither here nor there. Before we get into obviously this, I mean, to be honest, most of the stuff I'm going to talk about is probably not even really specifically about this actual game. It's more so the storylines going into it, coming out of it, etc., etc. But quickly before we get into that, I just want to apologise for the lack of video to all my subscribers the last week. I didn't even do a review from that last week's Steelers win, which is, I mean, you'd think, didn't even do a review for the, 7th win out of 25 losses since I've been doing my channel. And to be honest, I was just so annoyed after blowing the tank. I'm kidding. I had some tech issues the back end of last week to pretty much close out 2026 that dealt with a load of tech issues. And then just to kick off my 2026, been handed a bit of a blow with some personal stuff that I won't get into on here, but just wanted to quickly say that I apologise for the lack of videos, and obviously I've resolved the tech issues, etc., etc. So just in time for what will be a very eventful few weeks to start the off-season for the Browns, back to my regular scheduling, regular programming here on the channel. But let's obviously get into this one. As I said, I didn't even do that review, so I suppose I'll kick it off by obviously talking about how the Browns have played themselves out of a top 2 pick and essentially played themselves out of drafting either Dante Moore or Fernando Mendoza. That might annoy a lot of people if they watched either guy in the college playoff. Obviously, Mendoza looking like had a better game, but Moore going up against what is the best defense in the country and looking just fine. So the Browns have played themselves out of that. They would need absolutely just the craziest luck in the world to somehow end up back at that number 2 pick. I mean, they would need the Giants, the Cardinals, the Jets, and the Titans to all win, which is not going to happen. So we can say goodbye to the top 2 draft pick, whether or not you're someone that subscribed to that. Obviously, you might be either annoyed at that or don't really care. We are pretty much, I mean, we are guaranteed a top 10 pick. The Browns can't drop any lower than the 7th overall pick. Obviously, the Saints currently hold the 8th pick. They have 6 wins. Browns can't get to 6 wins, and even if they did, they'd have the worst strength of schedule anyway. So we're probably going to be picking 6th, because I don't expect any of those other teams to really win a game. Maybe one of them wins a game, and the Browns, jump up maybe one spot to 5. But at this point, I don't think it really matters. Anyone doing the routing guide this week, obviously, yes, we want all of those teams to lose. But to be honest, I don't even really think it matters with the Browns, even if they win this game. I mean, they're going to drop one spot than if they had lost the game. So it's not quite the same implications as last week. And that's obviously where we are now. You can either be that bad that you get the 1 or 2 pick. Obviously, last year was the case. Bit of luck elsewhere. But, as I've said a few times this year, when your defense is as good as the Cleveland Browns, it's pretty hard to end up with that number 2 pick. They won that game against the Steelers. I'm sure some people will be annoyed come April when those quarterbacks go off the board, but that's the NFL, and that's just how it goes. So obviously that's what came out of last week's game, and then going into this game, I mean, it's funny because last week vibes were probably better, even before we beat the Steelers. You would never think that vibes would go down after winning a game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think a lot of people in this fan base are pretty annoyed by obviously playing themselves out of that pick. When you have an awful season and you have not really much to go off, you don't really have anything to be excited about, I don't think you can blame people for, at the end of it, going, well, let's just get a fucking top 2 pick then, because at least that's something to be excited about. When you then fall out of that and you just suck anyway, you suck, but you don't have a top pick, it's pretty easy to get pretty disillusioned and just think, well, what's the fucking point? So I know there's two sides to this. People that are saying, oh, how could you root for people to your team to want to lose, etc. But I mean, that's pretty much it. What does winning actually do at this point? You're 4-12 instead of 3-13. Whoop-de fucking do. But you don't have a better draft pick, so you kind of that's why a lot of these teams that pick between 3 and 10 are there every year, because they're unable to get a player good enough to take them out of that range, but they're also not good enough anyway to get out of that range. And the Browns, if they're not careful, can find themselves falling into that trap. But obviously, going into this game, as I said, the vibes shifted with the fan base in terms of the pick stuff, and then obviously the vibes surrounding the whole organisation. I mean, it's the title of this video. It's the biggest storyline that's going to come out of this game, and that is that Kevin Stefanski, I think at this point 99.9% is going to be let go after this game. I don't think he's going to be sacked. I think it's going to be we're going to see a post on Monday that the Cleveland Browns and head coach Kevin Stefanski have mutually agreed to part ways. I think that's how it's probably going to be worded. But at this point, I would be pretty shocked if we don't get the news on Monday that Kevin Stefanski has left the Cleveland Browns and that the Browns are in search for a new head coach. That's where we're at. Whether or not you agree with that or not is obviously down to you. I've been someone that I've been accused of being a Kevin Stefanski truther over the years. I've stuck up for him where I felt it was justified. However, this season, I've brought that back a little bit because I feel like a lot of the criticism is justified. And just to kind of give you I suppose the quickest rundown I can of my views on it. I think Kevin Stefanski is a good coach. I think he can be successful in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. I think there's lots of things he needs to work on as a head coach in terms of leadership, starting from the top and et cetera, et cetera. But I think he's a fantastic offensive coach regardless. And I think he will have success elsewhere. But I do think it gets to a point where, even if you like the guy as much as I do, there has to be change. You can't keep putting the same shit product on the field and expecting it to turn into something nicer. Something has to give. Some drastic change is needed in this organization. It's not going to be the owner. He's not going anywhere. It's not going to be the GM. I think, I've said all along, I don't think Andrew Berry gets sacked. All the reports seem to hint towards that Kevin Stefanski will be let go and Andrew Berry will be kept. So where does that change come from? Maybe you could have argued at quarterback, if you had that top 2 pick, maybe that's the change that, this team, and you keep Kevin Stefanski, you draft Mendoza, and you see the fruits of that, and that's the change. But as I just said, the Browns have played themselves out of that possibility. So the only option left is the head coach. So regardless of your views on Kevin, regardless of, if you're someone like me, as a person, I think Kevin is an amazing person. I've got so much respect for Kevin. I think he's a good offensive coach. I think he's a good head coach. But as I said, you can't put up with what the Browns have been putting on the field the last 2 years and not change something. Sorry, I can't speak today. So that's why they're going to make this change. Whether or not it's the right thing to do, we will find out. But that is why you've got to make the change. And don't get me wrong, sacking, mutually agreeing to part ways with your head coach, that doesn't guarantee that the next guy is any better. If anything, the way that head coaching hiring is going the NFL, especially with the Cleveland Browns, chances are the next guy is probably worse. But as I said, I don't think we can argue anymore that change is not needed. And as I've just said, you can change other areas. Doesn't have to be the head coach, but is that realistic for the Browns? They're not changing the owner. The GM is not going anywhere. They can't go and draft a quarterback in the top 2 picks. So I think the only option left is the coach. So that's where I'm at with Kevin Stefanski. I appreciate everything that he has done for the Browns. I will probably, in my review, do a little segment, dedicate a little 5 minutes to, showing my respect to what is, in my opinion, the most successful Browns head coach since Marty Schottenheimer. As I've said, there's plenty of stuff you can criticise Kevin for. I think a lot of the stuff is valid at this point. But I think one thing that's just undeniable is that he is the best coach we've had. I mean, he is 100% the best coach we've had since 1999. And I'd argue that he's the best head coach we've had since Butch Davis. He's done better. He's done more for the Cleveland Browns than what Bill Belichick did. Butch Davis obviously gets a shout for that playoff appearance in the early 2000s, but one 9-7 season and 3 losing seasons. I don't think that compares to what Kevin Stefanski has done here in Cleveland over the last 6 years. So I think we can do 2 things. We can say yes, change is needed, and also respect and not just completely disregard what Kevin has done here. He's made Browns fans hope again. 7 years ago, we could have had these conversations, but we were just kidding ourselves. We'd not achieved anything. We knew we weren't going to achieve anything. We could keep talking ourselves into coaches and quarterbacks and all of this shit, but we knew we were going nowhere. And I think in this last 6 years, a lot of Browns fans have changed their expectations for this team for the better. Because we were kind of brought down by that. No fan base should feel as, lack of motivation, lack of, any kind of success that we felt with the Browns, over those years. No fan base should feel that with their organisation, but that's just where we were. And, one thing you can give credit to Kevin Stefanski, this coaching staff, for is they've come in here. They've let us hope again. 2020 playoff run, 2023, emotions that I've felt as a Browns fan that I've never felt before in my life. So just want to get that off my chest. I think a move is probably needed. It's going to happen, but that doesn't mean that it's not mutually exclusive to say that a change is needed and also recognise that Kevin Stefanski is the best head coach that we've had since Marty Schottenheimer, and what he has achieved here deserves recognition. Moving on, obviously, I suppose. See, I'm just rattling off my head here, guys. As I said, I'm not really going to be talking about this game because it's a Week 18 game against the Bengals. But obviously, Shedeur Sanders, we are now in a spot where he is most likely. Don't get me wrong, they're not going to just give him the job. I know a lot of people think that they're going to just give him the job. No fifth-round pick that's had the production that he's had just gets given the job. Brock Purdy led the 49ers to a NFC championship game, and they still made him compete for the job. They're going to bring someone in, or obviously, to much of our chagrin, they're going to make him compete with Deshaun Watson. If Jimmy is serious about being all in on Arch Manning, that a lot of people seem to be reporting, then just get ready for a year of Antonio Pierce and Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson, because they'll just be punting on the season, and that's what they will do. Just get a 1-year rental of Antonio Pierce, get him to go and secure your number one pick and you can go and draft Arch Manning and reset again. I don't think that's what any team should do, but that's the reporting out there. But obviously with Shedeur, as I said, he's giving himself a much better chance to be the starter next year, because obviously when you're not bringing in a top 2 pick at quarterback, you're going to have more grace. You're going to have more grace over a guy like Deshaun Watson, obviously, especially within the fan base. So at this point now, not that I've said the contrary any other week. Of course, I wanted to see him play well, but even more so now, the performances from Shedeur are obviously going to mean a little bit more, because the chances are he likely is going to be the quarterback for next year, at least have a chance to be the quarterback for next year. So obviously continue to see good flashes out of Shedeur is great, but I'll be completely honest, it's quite hard to sit here and look at the production that he's had and go, yeah, we're fine for quarterback going into next year. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. My eye test, the stats, the advanced analytics, none of that tells me that this is a proven starting quarterback in the NFL. I would love to be proven that he is, but I just haven't seen that yet. So anyone going into next year thinking that he is the nailed-in starter, that's just not going to be the case. And if it is the case, I don't think this is a serious NFL team, because you don't go into a season going, yep, the 5th-round pick that didn't really show us that much, threw more interceptions than touchdowns and had a worse QBR in the NFL, is going to be our starting quarterback, no questions asked. You might as well just hand in your resignation to the NFL and drop down to the XFL if that's the case. So there's obviously going to be a competition. We're going to have to do the whole what veteran quarterbacks can the Browns bring in videos again. Can't wait. I'm going to re-upload my video from last off-season on Malik Willis and just pretend that I'm good at this stuff, and that obviously that's one of the guys in play. But that's where we're at with the quarterback situation. It's easy to see why a lot of people are annoyed. A lot of people think we're still stuck in QB purgatory, because I'd love to have the faith in Shedeur Sanders that a lot of people do, but I need to see it. I can't just blindly give anyone that faith. I need to see it, and I haven't seen it. So that's where we're at quarterback. Might get pretty grim in the off-season, especially if we do have a 12 versus 4 quarterback battle, because if I'm being completely honest, 4 probably wins that battle. So that's where we're at. Obviously, I won't go too much into it now, but there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of questions at quarterback that could have potentially been answered with a top 2 pick. Doesn't guarantee it by any means, but gives you a chance. But now, obviously, I think the Browns are going to be more in that veteran QB market / Shedeur Sanders having a QB battle with Deshaun Watson or whoever they bring in. But just to round off the last kind of storylines going into this game, obviously Myles Garrett breaking the sack record. The Steelers cared more about not letting Myles break the record than securing a fucking playoff spot. They're absolute losers. So as I've said the last few weeks, I knew it was going to happen. We're going to go into the last week with Myles still needing a sack to break the sack record. If he doesn't break the record, I'll be honest, I'm going to be so fucking annoyed, because all we've been talking about the last 6 weeks for him to then not break the record. I don't give a damn about the 17-game stuff. I really don't care. Just go get a sack, go own that record, so we can at least have something to take away from this season. Thankfully, we are playing the Bengals. Joe Burrow, good man, came out there and he said, look, I'm just going to play football. I don't, if he breaks the record on me, he breaks the record on me. I'm not out there trying to not take a sack just because of that. So I respect that, Joe Burrow. I respect that more than what Aaron Rodgers did last week, because you know damn well that any time that Myles Garrett was near Aaron Rodgers, the only thing going through his mind was, I don't want to be the guy that gets played on the highlight of Myles breaking the sack record every time they play this video. I'm going to just throw the ball away and dirt it into the ground. I don't think Joe Burrow plays with that same style. I respect him for doing so. And hopefully, it would be pretty fitting for Myles to get the record-breaking sack on the Bengals, the team that he has caused more pain than any other team in the NFL. He sacked Joe Burrow more times than any quarterback in the NFL. It would be pretty fitting. if that's the case. But I'm going to be bloody nervous if we get into anything past the first series and Miles hasn't broke the record. I'm going to get sweetie bum time, because as I said the last few weeks, that's my Super Bowl. And we're a bad team. If Miles doesn't do that, then fuck me, we don't got much to take away from this season. Hopefully, something else we will be able to take away is Carson Schwarzenegger's Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he has pretty much locked it. I will be surprised if he doesn't win it. If he doesn't win it, it'll be because Nick Emenwari has like 6 interceptions this week or something, and secures Seattle the number 1 seed. I think they might have already secured it anyway with the Rams losing. So I think he's pretty much secured that. Slightly annoying that he is 3 tackles away from breaking the Browns not rookie record. He's already smashed that. The Browns' record for tackles in a season in franchise history. DeQuell Jackson owns the record with 158. Carson was going to enter this game on 156. He gets 10 tackles every game in his sleep, so he was pretty much nailed in to break that. But Carson Schwarzenegger has now been ruled out for this game with an injury. So that's annoying, don't get me wrong, but I suppose on the flip side, this is a guy that is going to be playing in brown and orange for the next decade. If he doesn't get multiple more chances to break that record, then I will be very surprised. So a little bit annoying that obviously he won't get a chance to do it in his rookie season, but I'm sure he'll get plenty of more chances. What an incredible rookie season from Carson. One of the best rookie seasons I've ever seen from a Browns rookie. So excited about him. And then another rookie that unfortunately is ruled out for this game with a chance to add on to his records is Harold Fanning. Obviously broke the Browns rookie reception record a couple weeks ago now, so he's already got that one in the bag. But he leads all rookies in receptions this year. Tyler Warren is 1 behind him. He's probably going to catch that and break that with obviously Fanning not playing in this game. He was currently 4th in yards, receiving yards amongst all rookies, so he's probably going to drop a little bit down that list as well. But, what he's put up in his rookie season as a 21-year-old tight end out of the third fucking round. Was it third round? Yeah, third round. Is incredible. Everyone should be so excited about him. He is the future of the tight end position. This is a tight end that I believe in his prime is going to be putting up 1,000-yard seasons. Incredibly impressed with Harold Fanning. I mean, to be honest, incredibly impressed with this whole rookie class. It's been the biggest takeaway for most of us Browns fans, other than obviously Myles Garrett going after that record. This rookie class has provided us with a lot of excitement going forward. When you're as bad as the Browns are, it can feel pretty grim at times. It can feel like there's no route to success. I mean, a lot of people probably feel that way now. But at least you can hang your hat on the fact that, if you are able to figure out quarterback, figure out the coach, figure out a few things, you've got these great pieces around you to be able to build with into the future in Harold Fanning, in Carson Schwarzenegger, in Mason Graham, in the 2 running backs, obviously, hopefully Quinchon back at full health as early as possible. So, bad season, but you can hang your hat on this rookie class and obviously what that means going forward. And, even just overall, I mean, you look at some of the trades. I mean, Tyson Campbell was fucking hooping against the Steelers. He was incredible. Really, really impressed with Tyson Campbell. That trade is just continues to show what a trade that is. We've got him under control for the next 3 years with this defense. So, that's kind of where we're at. So I suppose I will finish it on that. It's really easy to get kind of bogged down and depressed, to be honest, with this team. When you're bad all year and you think, oh, well, maybe we get the top 2 pick and that can give us a chance of getting out of the QB purgatory and all of that stuff, and you even fuck that up, it can be, as I said, pretty depressing, pretty dark. It seems like there's no route forward. But what I will always say is that, even though it doesn't feel like it as Browns fans, we've kind of been conditioned to believe that it's a lie. It's not a lie, and anything can change in any given year in the NFL. Shedeur Sanders could figure it out in the offseason, come out and be a top 10 quarterback next year. You just never know. any given year, so much can change. And when you've got the foundational pieces that the Browns have on defense, when you have such a good defense, you have promising young players on offense, it takes one great draft class, one great free agency class of rebuilding that offensive line, getting some receivers in there, get lucky with a quarterback, and you could be right back to competing the year after you went 4-13 and 3-14 in consecutive seasons. So I will always stress that, and I will always believe that, no matter how much this team makes me believe the contrary. That is just a proven thing in the NFL. I know it feels like we're never going to get it right and whatever, but law of averages would suggest that fucking one of these years we will figure it out. So that's what I will leave it on. As bad as it gets, as grim as it might feel, as depressing as it might feel, let's have Miles go break that sack record. Let's have Carson Schlesinger go get that Defensive Rookie of the Year. Let's hopefully see some jumps from Shedeur Sanders. And let's attack this off season the way that we attacked last off season on the defense. Let's attack this off season on the offense, and hopefully we get a much better product on the field next year, and a product that Browns fans can be proud of and actually enjoy watching. So that's where I'm at going into this final game, obviously with Kevin, with all of that stuff. As I said earlier at the start, I do just want to apologise again. I hold myself to a standard for these videos, and not being able to release videos to my standard over the last, to be honest, I say last few weeks, it's been the last month. It has actually really annoyed me. I know probably a lot of people won't even get to this part of the video. I'm only a small channel, but I take pride in what I do, and I like to give good Cleveland Browns content to what I believe is the best fan base in the world. So I do apologise for that. I apologise to you guys. I apologise to myself. As I said, had some tech issues, had some personal stuff going on. Hopefully on the bright side of that now. And as I said, we got so much stuff coming up. The off season is the NFL never sleeps. They've done a really good job of scheduling all of their activities, all of their year-long things into a whole calendar to make it feel like, even though when you've got the longest off-season in sports, there's still so much going on. So I'll be here. I'll be talking all about that stuff. We're going to have a head coaching search, so expect to see plenty of videos on that. Expect to see plenty of videos on the quarterback stuff, etc., etc. As I said, 2026 starters, to go forwards. And that starts with providing better content for you guys who are watching, and you guys who deserve it, because Browns fans don't, no fan base gets kicked around and stomped on more than Browns fans. So the least I can do is put as much effort as I can into this content. So again, just want to obviously apologise for my lack of good content over the last few weeks, and make the promise to you guys that will change, and that I will start. I will start this year off as to go on with some bad stuff behind me, and excited to talk Cleveland Browns football with you guys, no matter where it goes. But that's where I'm at, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think I'm way off? Do you think it's all a smokescreen and we actually keep Kevin Stefanski? Is it like a WWE scene where Monday morning he actually comes running down the thing, and we hear the Undertaker music and Kevin Stefanski, I'm not going anywhere, bitches. Let me know. Obviously, I think he is obviously gone, but I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on Kevin, on Shedeur, on Miles, on the Browns, on what you had for dinner last night. I don't care. Let me know in the comments below. But thanks again for watching, guys. If you do enjoy my content, please drop this video a like. Hit that subscribe button. It's free, but it really, really helps out my channel. You can also check the links in the description to see where you can follow and interact with me on social media. As I always say, I'm trying to build a community of Cleveland Browns fans, and even if that means I only get to talk to one fan a day, I'm happy, because I'm talking Browns football with the best fan base in the world. Thanks again for watching, guys. Enjoy the final game of the 2025 NFL season. But most importantly, go Browns.